You see what I told you about franchises? You see what I told you about how important it is that whenever you're selling your game, you want to make sure that you can build a player base that will be excited when you choose or when you decide that you're going to show up again. Notice that the developers of Black Myth Wukong, according to them, like to give a August 20th update to the progress of their games. They want to launch Black Myth Wukong, or they will be launching Black Myth Wukong on Xbox on the 20th of August. I'm recording this video for you guys on the 19th. And Pure Xbox is reporting that this new game that they have, Black Myth Wukong, I think that's how you say it. Forgive me if my Chinese is wrong there, but that word, Z-H-O-N-G, I know you pronounce it Zhong, but hey, how I know that, whole long story. And I could be wrong too. But what they're saying here is that the FAQ page points out that this game will be launching on PC plus all mainstream console platforms and will be confirmed prior to release. Now, y'all know the fiasco that we went through last time with Black Myth Wukong, right? You guys remember how very interesting all of the details surrounding the game actually, was. It's one of those really interesting things at the end of the day. I'd say that anyone who's probably looking towards playing this game more than likely just needs to wait, because the whole conversation about Black Myth Wukong was so convoluted, I can't imagine. Now, I supported this game. Get out of here. 2 copies, okay? One of them was for me, another for another purpose that I'm not interested in talking about right now. But it was actually very interesting overall to see how the developers, said that they were going to launch it on Xbox when they felt it met their satisfaction. And then all of a sudden, we see someone who is going to be, by the way, leaving PlayStation's ranks. I don't know if you guys know that. Phil Rosenberg say how they supported Black Myth Wukong and a few other games, which all ended up being timed exclusives to Xbox. The age of exclusivity is going to die simply because the developers over at Game Science now understand that in order for them to basically make a franchise out of Black Myth, they have to now continue to appeal to the biggest player base out there. Yes, they sold 30 million units. That's great. That's wonderful. But you have to understand the gaming industry is one where once you build a user base, you must continue that collective with other launches, progression in your development, and continue to bring products to that user base. In fact, one interesting thing that a lot of people probably don't realize is the ratio of the purchases in terms of this game on console and PC has probably shed light on how much of a waste signing your game to go be locked on one console actually is. It's actually a poor proposition. When you kind of think about it, I've been looking at this whole trend of exclusivity, and I cannot tell you more than 2 PlayStation games this generation that have benefited from being exclusives. Like in terms of the ratio of games sold to consoles owned. Today, I even went back and I said, let's go look as far back as MLB The Show. How many PlayStation consoles were sold at the time that MLB The Show launched on the PS5 and also launched on Xbox? That number is very scary. Yes, it was actually celebrated by the investors, but there was one thing that the investors did go ahead and highlight that I'd not necessarily paid much attention to, and that was the fact that the PS5 had sold over 10 million units. At the time, they were celebrating that MLB The Show from San Diego Studios, the fastest selling title in the franchise history, had sold more than 2 million units. But those 2 million units were split across Xbox and PlayStation 5. That's not talking about the fact that it reached more than 4 million players, which would have been more than likely enhanced by Xbox's Game Pass. But if within your consoles, which had sold around 10 million units at launch, at the time that this article was actually set up in place, around, I think it said April, that's when they put the little sticker on, they had over 10 million units sold. And your game is splitting a 2+ million copy, differential between themselves and Xbox, who was kind of at the time actually trailing a bit closer to PlayStation in a sense. It's just wild that any third-party developer would think that this console is a viable place to do business. It's such a sham. They've basically decided this whole third-party thing and the exclusivity is to not only lock these games from going to Xbox to keep Xbox irrelevant, because, oh, if you're not getting this game on Xbox, as the PlayStation fanboys used to say, nobody really cares. All they care about is where they can play Final Fantasy, where they can play Black Myth, where they can play blah, blah, blah. They used to say it in their podcast. I heard many of them say it. I have videos to that effect. So if that was the main proposition and it didn't necessarily matter whether or not the games were selling or not, ask Final Fantasy 16 how that went for them, where Square Enix is going back to their shareholders, then it makes a whole lot of sense that these guys on the back end of them launching the Xbox version of this game, they're already telling you, hey, we're launching Black Myth Jonkwe. Come and play this game when it launches. They're not saying anything. We don't know what it is, but fans right now need to be very cautious as to how they approach this. You understand what I mean? Because I'm sure they've learned a lesson very carefully, and if they haven't learned a lesson, they will learn a lesson. Now, they understand that PC is going to be their main platform. That's for sure. You can't count on PlayStation to be your main platform. You're going to go to Stellar Blade route. You're going to go to Final Fantasy route. That particular platform is one that sells a lot of consoles, but the game conversion rates are actually quite strange. And you know what's weird is these same so-called people who herald the console sales, they yell at Xbox fans and say you don't have enough consoles sold on your ecosystem, and then they still come back and say, why didn't you buy as many games as we didn't? It's so weird. Like, I saw a post from Dirk Riggedy. I'm going to make another video on this. I just thought to myself, how much of a mental, dishonesty paradigm can somebody build to come up with these kinds of fugazi nonsense? Anyways, Black Myth Jonkwe, Game Science. You guys are probably in a position where you now know how to develop for the Series S. You now know how to scale your game. There should be no excuses. You want to make money? We want to support you. Again, like I said, 2 copies of this game at max price. Don't give me that. I didn't wait for a sale. I haven't even beaten my copy yet. I had the latency issue. I wanted to support you out of sentiment. I like Chinese lore and, kung fu and combat. So I chalk it up to sentiment. But in this particular case, as the gaming community has already supported you and pushed you forward, we're cheering you on to go out there and get stuff done. This is not the time to start playing these stupid backhanded bribery deals that y'all call exclusivity deals and third-party exclusivity deals. That's nonsense. That's absolutely nonsense. It's time for y'all to serve gamers and let PlayStation fend for themselves. That's literally it. They're the company that has billions and billions of dollars being earned on their own coffers. Why shouldn't you get into the point where you're earning billions and billions of dollars on your hard work and your sweat? They do not make, deals like they do with y'all's third-party games. They'll lock y'all's third-party games up and then go put their games on those platforms that they're locking y'all's third-party games away from. Look at what they did with Final Fantasy 16. Look at what they've done with Black Myth Wukong. They quickly launched God of War on there while your Black Myth was launching and being, locked on their platform. They were launching God of War on PC. Then now they're going to launch Helldivers 2 6 days after you've already gone ahead to launch this single-player game so that they can now suck more live service game player money out of Xbox. What are you going to make from Xbox after 1 year? It's a critical question that every developer, whether you be third party, whether you be independent, whether you be AAA or whether you be AA, these are the questions that you almost ask yourselves before you get into bed with these publishers that own platforms.